guys, I'm Taylor of Simply Betta, and if you don't know what this channel is about, it's about betta fish, or betta fish. I'm obsessed with them, I love them so much, and planted tanks and aquariums. It's just my hobby, it's something that I really enjoy, so I have a channel about it. I also like to think of myself as kind of an artsy person, somebody who's very creative. I like being creative, I like doing new things all the time. And my last big creative project was making a themed planted tank, where I made all of my own decorations. You guys might remember a video I released a while ago about my Hobbit tank, or my Lord of the Rings planted aquarium. I had so much fun making this, and it was so just rewarding. Like, I enjoyed it so much. I had this tank for like 3 years. I really enjoyed it. It was actually the first planted tank that I ever made. The first time I tried plants, it took me a long time to get it right, but I got the hang of it eventually. So I made all of my decorations, and I actually made this planted tank way before I had a YouTube channel, like years before I even started making videos or documenting anything that I did. So I don't have a lot of footage or pictures from when I actually made my decorations. But I thought that I'd go through my homemade decorations today and talk about how I made them and like what I did, what the process was, and why it ultimately failed. I had my Hobbit tank for years, but eventually my decorations of the Hobbit house of Bag End, they started kind of falling apart. So I'm gonna go over just basically how I made these decorations. I have talked about the Hobbit tank in the past, and I haven't really shared how I made the decorations, and I'm gonna go over like why I think they didn't work, and then I'll talk about my next try that I'm going to do, my next themed planted tank, what it's going to be, and I'm gonna do a whole new workflow, a whole new process for creating your very own custom fish tank decorations and have them be safe and not fall apart. A whole new method. So let's talk about it. Right back here are my decorations from the Hobbit tank. I'm a huge Lord of the Rings fan. The Lord of the Rings series has shaped who I am today. I even have a framed map of Middle-earth over my mantle right now. It's that important to me. This was my little homage to my favorite series of all time. And I enjoyed this tank so much before my decorations failed. So I'm really excited to be announcing what my next tank is going to be at the end of this video. Welcome to my workspace. These are all of the elements that I used to create the Hobbit tank. We have some stone walls back here I thought turned out pretty nice. I really like all the detail I was able to put into the rocks. This is an extra large rock wall that was in my foreground. You can see there where it fell apart, unfortunately. I thought this one turned out pretty well too. Then I have some elements of the house, the actual architecture, that I kind of stuck into a little hill to make it seem like that was Bag End. Here's the front door. And then we have some sides of the house to kind of extend it a little bit. Then I also made a few smaller pieces. This here is a little stick fence. I thought turned out pretty cool. It's actually made out of toothpicks. And then on one side of the fence, I have this gate here that actually has the no admittance sign, and also some stone steps that led up to the front door. So I'll talk about how I made all of my individual elements. Let's start with Bag End itself. This here's the front of Bilbo's house. My armature that I used to sculpt this was actually just like a piece of flat cardboard that I cut out to the dimensions that I wanted. I taped another piece of cardboard over the top until I got the dimensions I wanted. I reinforced it with some wire. And then these little beams here are actually like some wooden bamboo skewers that I cut to size. Then I actually took Sculpey clay and I went ahead and I put all the volume on and all the detail. Like, look at those little shingles on the roof, the bricks. This is all just detail that I sculpted. With the Sculpey clay, you can put it in the oven to bake it, and that makes it nice and hard. And after that, I painted everything. And once I was happy, I tried sealing it with an epoxy resin. Front piece is one of the pieces that ended up failing and falling apart. What happened is I started getting cracks along some edges. I have some cracks right here. They're kind of hard to see because I tried patching them and painting over them and resealing them, but it didn't work. So along some edges, I have some cracking. which isn't good because if it cracks, water gets in and everything expands. The Sculpey expands, it falls apart, it cracks, and who knows what kind of chemicals were getting into my water because of that. I also siliconed some little wire pieces on here just to help shove it into the hill and have it stay. I did the same thing to these two smaller architectural pieces. Same method. This piece actually didn't fall apart that much, which I'm rather proud of. I had to actually, I had to glue a weight down here because it kept wanting to float up. This one here was definitely falling apart too. I was getting the same problem. Cracks that I kept trying to patch and seal, and it just wouldn't work. The fence that was in front of Bilbo's house was made out of toothpicks. I set down a bunch of toothpicks. I stuck them into something. I don't really remember what. And then I took some of my Sculpey clay and I really carefully made like the interlaced sticks. And it turned out pretty well. I was really happy with how it turned out. You'll notice I did break it accidentally a few times. And then there was a gate attached, but it ended up breaking off. I also had some cracking problems on this. I thought the gate turned out nice, especially how I painted my wood texture. And then I love the little no admittance sign. No admittance. Yeah, I can't do voices. This is just a piece of paper that I sealed with resin and I siliconed it on to the gate. I also made some stone steps leading up to the front door. These are just little chunks of my Sculpey clay that I baked and I painted, kind of rock-like. And I siliconed some little pieces of plastic to the bottom so I could dig it into the substrate and it wouldn't really go anywhere. Now onto my bigger pieces, these rock walls. These were really fun to make, also very time-consuming. So to make armatures for these, it was actually wire that I then taped over, and that's how I made the armature and how I made it kind of stand up. You can see that's what those wires down here are for. It's just to help prop it up. And then that way I could put substrate or rocks on top and it would help hold it into place. Just look at all this detail. Look at it. I put so much effort into this rock wall, sculpting each rock and painting it and just everything. I also was really careful to seal this with a whole lot of coats, but look at that. It ended up cracking. It ended up failing. I was so disappointed when I was seeing all these cracks just because of all the effort that I put into this. But it looks pretty nice regardless. Look at that. It looks great. Same with this one, which I'm going to have to put it out here to get the full scope of how big that is. It wrapped around the whole tank. But again, you can see how much love and detail I put into this and painting it and getting all the detail right on every single rock. That major crack right there shows my armature of tape and wire underneath. I really like how this turned out. It did such a good job while it was in there, but I was heartbroken to see it fail. I did the same thing where I had some wire little feet to help prop it up so I could put some rocks on there, just to make sure that it would stay upright and that I could bank a whole lot of substrate behind this and help layer up the design vertically. And I really like how it turned out. So if you're wondering, I've already taken down the Hobbit tank. I disassembled it. It was already like 3 years old. I was ready to move on to something new. I was tired of having these problems with the decorations because, I'd go in and I'd fix them and I'd be all hopeful and happy and then they'd just fail again. And it was really bringing me down. Disassembling it was fun. I had a video about the destruction, the desolation of the Hobbit tank, which I'll link right here if you want to see it. Now I have this beautiful bow front tank just sitting empty, and it needs decorations. I need to try it again. I need to do decorations again, and I need to succeed this time. And I think I found a way to do custom decorations in a way where you're not going to have to worry about it falling apart on you. That's the reason why up until now I haven't shared how I made these, is because they didn't go as planned, and I didn't want to put that information out there and then have people try it for themselves, it fall apart in front of their face, and have them blame me. I didn't want that. But this time, coming up very shortly, I'm going to be having a series on my next planted tank and actually bring everyone through how I make everything. So what is my next themed tank going to be? Instead of having a movie theme this time, I'm choosing one of my favorite video games of all time. What could that be? What could Taylor's favorite video game in the whole world, at least right now, be? Much like Lord of the Rings. There are brave warriors in this video game. There are crazy, dangerous creatures. A huge land of adventure. There's danger. Politics, moral choices, elves, detailed lore and history, dragons, fireballs and magic spells, dragons. Have you guessed what it is yet? That's right. My next Aquascape is going to be Skyrim themed. Stay tuned, guys, because I have such a cool idea for how this tank is going to look, and if you're a Skyrim fan like me, you don't even have to be a fan. You could probably enjoy this tank regardless. Definitely follow along. Goodbye, productivity. I have a game to play. In the name of research.
Hey, you. You're finally awake.